Hi folks. So I know a lot of new players are quite nervous about changing strings on a guitar, and it really is quite a simple process. There's a few different setups, and it just so happens I've got 4 to do today, so and they're all slightly different. So I'll show you what we've got, and hopefully I'll explain how simple it really is. Okay, so first start off with my acoustic. Most of the acoustic guitars are set up exactly the same way, pins through the bridge and standard machine heads. So first thing I'm going to do is just loosen them off. I've got one of these little string winder things here. This is quite a handy one because it's got a set of snips on the end and also a little peg puller as well. So before you go and cut the strings, you should take the tension off them first. So just loosen them off a bit. You get these things that will actually sit on the end of a drill as well if you want to go super quick. Reason you don't cut the strings while they're still full of tension is that it can actually shock the machine heads and cause issues with those, especially on older ones. Cold temperatures and the likes. So it's always best to just take the tension off them. Once the tension's off, you can just snip them. So, changing the strings on your guitar is an ideal time to give it a clean as well. For your own sanity, because these things get everywhere, and especially with thinner strings, they're quite difficult to see sometimes. So you're always as well gathering them up as you cut them off, rolling them up. Because vacuum cleaners in particular don't like guitar strings. Now, pins you should just be able to pull out. Drop back in. Try and drop them back in the hole they came from, because they do wear. If you get one that's stiff, doesn't want to pull out, sometimes if you push on the string, it's enough to loosen it. But if you're really struggling, you've got these little pullers on the end of your thing. You can just slip it over and pull out the peg like that. I don't particularly like using them, but that's what they're for. So yeah, always try and put the pegs back in the same hole that they came out of, because they wear that way, you know. Right, so that's the old strings off. So ideal opportunity to give the guitar a bit of a clean. I'm just using a microfiber cloth here, and it's not even damp. It's just a dry microfiber cloth, just to take the worst of the dust off under the strings, all those areas that you can't normally get to. Quick wipe down the neck, take any crud off the fretboard. Those frets are looking a little bit dull as well, actually. So while I'm here, I might give them a quick buff up. So I think over here, there we go. So just a standard nail file buff. And I'm going to use the last one, polish and shine. I think that's the last step on it. So that's the finest one. I'm just gently going to rub it over the frets. It should restore a little bit of the shine. Take some of the tarnish off. I don't want to go too mad with it, and I don't want to be hitting the fretboard with it either. I don't want to be marking checking my fretboard. Mostly down the bottom end where it gets played the most. If you're worried about marking the fretboard, you could always cover it in tape. I'll just use a piece of tape you move along, you know. I think for me this is so fine that it's not really going to be an issue. But having nice shiny frets does actually help. Okay, that'll do. Right, new strings. So string gauges, if you're not sure what to get. Most guitars ship, I believe, acoustic guitars tend to ship with somewhere around 11s or 12s on them. That's the gauge of the string. I prefer a lighter gauge. You choose what manufacturer you like, it's up to you. I particularly like these ones. Most guitar players are creatures of habit. We tend to stick to what we know. I like these. These are phosphor bronze wound. They've got a really nice crisp sound to them. So make sure you put the strings on in the right places. So I'm just going to slot the first two in to the bridge. And when I'm putting them in the hole here, you actually want underneath there is, you see the pin has got a little groove in it. Not all of them do, most of them do. What you want it to do is you don't want the pin sitting on the end of the peg like that. What you want it to do is come up against the underside of there and be trapped sort of up here somewhere, you know, against the underside. So what you want to do is slot it in, get the groove in the right place, slot that in, and just wiggle the string a bit as you tuck it in and pull them nice and tight. Okay, so I'm going to, once I've got the string in that end, I'm going to push it through the machine head, line the hole up so it's straight. I'm going to pull it nice and tight there, tuck my fingers underneath the string like that, put my first finger on the first fret, and now I'm going to pull back one fret and take the string with me. Okay, at that point I can then kink that string over and start winding. Now what I'm going to do as I wind it, I'm going to wind down the capstan. This should give me 2 to 3 winds around. And as you feel it tightening up, obviously let your fingers out. The most important thing to do once you put the strings on is give them a stretch. So again, same way as we did before, I'm going to put my fingers underneath, put my thumb this time over the top, and I'm just going to tug there. I don't know if you can see that close up there. That's kind of just stretching the string. Now that's not going anywhere. I can snip that off. Second one, exactly the same. Feed the string through the hole, line it up into its slot, pull it nice and tight, fingers under the string, first finger over the first fret, pull it back a fret, start winding. And that's given us about 2.5 to 3 winds around the peg, and that's not going anywhere. So again, I could stretch it a bit. You probably have to stretch them all a few times before they'll hold tune properly, but it shouldn't take much. As long as you stretch them, they'll stay in tune. If you don't stretch them, it's going to go out, keep going out of tune for the first little while. Okay, rest of the strings exactly the same. Basically what we're doing is we're trying to as we're going across, we're going to try and keep to 2.5 to 3 winds around each peg, and as we go to the thinner strings we compensate for them being thinner. We don't have to pull back the full fret, so by the time you get to the B and the high E strings, you're really only coming back to about half the fret there when you're pulling back on it, and that's really the only difference. So very straightforward, certainly not something you should be paying somebody else to do, because it really is that simple. There's nothing to it. Just remember, don't try and tune too high to begin with. G string. In case you're wondering how I know which string to put in which hole, by the way, this particular make are all colour coded, so it tells you. You see the old ones that have came off, they've got different colour ball ends on the strings, so it tells you where they go on the back of the packet. So now I'm going to pull back on this one only about 3/4 of the fret, something like that. And get that tightened up. Find this awkward doing it this way around. Usually I have it standing up. I'm trying to do it so you can see what I'm doing on the camera. Last 2 strings. About half the fret on the B string. This is usually easier to do it when it's standing up. next one. Again, just keep wind down the peg all the time, never wind up the peg, always wind down it. Some people, some guitars will have a problem with the higher strings, the thinner strings in particular, may slip. And sometimes what I'll do if I've got a guitar that does that is I will, as I'm winding, as the end of the string comes through the hole like that, I'll put one wind above it and the next wind below it, and that kind of sandwiches it. There's all sorts of things you can do, like the luthier's knot and stuff like that, which is just putting little bends in the strings and catching it. Problem with those is they tend to stab you when you try to take them off, and most of the time they're not necessary because they don't really slip that much, to be honest. Okay, so tune up. Set of strings. Now I'll probably batter about with that a bit, stretch the strings in a couple more times, retune it, and that should be it now, stable. So there's the first one. So this is a Stratocaster. It's not a genuine Fender Strat, by the way. I built this one myself. It's a what they call a parts caster. I built it out of parts. Genuine Fender neck, genuine Fender machine heads. It's a genuine Fender bridge. They're classic vibes. Blues type pickups that I put in it, and good quality pots and capacitors. There isn't actually much left of the original guitar that I got that used as the basis. I think the body's about the only thing that's left, and the scratch plate. Yeah, everything else has been changed. So anyway, this guitar has got locking nuts, locking tuners on it, so this makes it really quick and simple for changing. Now, these are ideal for tremolo systems. If you've got a hardtail or a fixed bridge, also known as a hardtail, locking tuners, you're not really going to get the benefit out of them other than the speed of changing strings. So the idea with those is to reduce the amount of winds around the post. So ideally there will be no winds around the post at all, and that's so that there is no slack, because as this tremolo system moves back and forth, you know, tension gets caught everywhere along the line. So along the bridge here, I put a roller bridge in here so that you don't get any catching there. It's got a decent quality nut on it, although I think that probably needs a little bit more work on that. I could take that down a bit lower. But having a good quality nut, again, allows the string to slide through it, because that's really the only other catch point you're going to get. And that's what makes your guitar go out of tune when you use the tremolo. You know, you bend the strings down, it pings back up, and all of a sudden your guitar's out of tune. It's usually because of these pinch points. So anyway, right, so we'll just going to loosen them off again slightly. Just basically bring the holes back round to being lined up with the string. And now all I have to do, turn it over and loosen each one of these. The strings will just pull straight out. Now, I can shove these through the back now. On the back, common problem, these slots are always, they never bloody line up properly, it's a pain. So let me show you what's happening underneath here. So I'll just whip this cover off. I'll maybe turn this around so that you can see it closer to the camera. Okay, so that's the underside of your tremolo system. So everything is contracting off, pulling from the body here. This is your pivot and your springs there. So you can see the holes, those offset holes there, that's where your string goes through. And that's why these are slotted, hopefully to catch them. Oh, but as I say, they don't always line up. Bit of a pain. But anyway, I can now shove all these strings back through. Sometimes have to give them a bit of a rattle because they do get stuck. With the higher strings that tend to catch. I've got a couple there that are a bit stuck, so I'm going to use one of the string ends that I cut off before and just push it through. Hopefully. Still not there. Okay, so all the strings are off it again. Great opportunity to give it a clean. Give my frets a quick polish. It is muck coming off there. I know it doesn't look that much different, but there is crap coming off there. Right. So guitar strings are different. Electric guitar strings are different from acoustic guitar strings. On the acoustic guitar, the G string is wound. On the electric guitar, it's not. There we go. So feed the string up through the back, so it runs through the saddle and across the little roller. This time through the hole, pull it as tight as you can, tighten that up. That string's not going anywhere now. I can just clip the end off, and that's it done. This couldn't be simpler. Straight up, pull it as tight as you can, tighten the knot on the back. So yeah, as you can see, they're a lot less hassle. And if you don't have to mess around with taking that cover off the back of your guitar if the holes line up, then it's a damn sight quicker. Straight through, pull it tight, tighten the wheel on the back. So as you can see, there's nothing rocket science about this. Nothing technically challenging. The worst thing you can do is over tighten it and break a string. Or not pull it tight enough and have too many wraps around it, in which case it'll keep going out of tune. So yeah, worst case scenario, you take the strings off, start again. You ain't gonna damage your guitar by changing the strings. Right, almost there. the back. Start winding. And the last one. That's it. Tune it up and job done. Oh, let's stick those screws back in the back, haven't I? Okay. That's two down. This one's my old Telecaster. 1974 this one is. I broke the D string last time I was playing it, so that needs a new set of strings as well. So yeah, start off just by loosening off what's already there so we don't shock anything. The difference with this one, I don't know if you've noticed it yet, is the tuners have got split pegs. So we've got the line that goes right the way through, rather than being solid and with a hole through it, they're actually slotted. So, which makes them nice and easy to pull off. Clip them anyway, just so they're easier to pull through the bridge section. I shouldn't get greedy with these and try and cut more than one string at a time, they don't like it. Right, so again, Telecaster, the strings feed through the body. There we go. That's the broken bit. Okay, so again, give it a quick dust. Get some of the crap off of there. All the stuff that gets trapped under the strings. Right, okay, give it a start. So it's a slightly different approach because these split tuners, I actually like them. I think they're better than the modern ones. I don't know why they stopped doing them that way. I'll show you how they work. So with these, you actually cut the string first before you wrap it, which sounds a bit odd, but you'll see why in a sec. Feeding the string through the back, off the bridge saddle, through the slot in the nut, and now what I'm going to do is keep that string straight. I'm not going to pull it particularly tight, but I'm going to take it up to where the G string would be, and I'm going to cut it there. Okay. So now, take the end of that and pop it straight down the centre of that post. And what you find in there is there's a little space for it at the end of the string to slot into in the bottom there. As you put the string in, you'll find it slot. Once it goes in there, push it down, wind it back, and then just tighten up as you would normally. So dead simple, and you don't get any spiky ends stuck out. So I think they're great. But you must keep the tension on it as you pull up. That's the only thing with these, because they will pop out. The whole string will just pop straight out if you're not careful. So keep tension on it the whole time. And always wind down the peg. This one's trying to go up. That length of taking that up to the tuner for the G string has given us 3 winds of string around the peg, which is perfect. It's exactly what we're looking for. So now with the A string, I'm going to take it to about halfway between the G and the B string before I cut it. Okay. And if you're in doubt, leave it a little bit long, because an extra wind round won't hurt. But maybe not enough will mean it keeps popping out. So cut it a little bit longer rather than shorter if you're unsure. Again, as you get the first couple of winds on, just making sure that the wind winds down the peg, not up the peg. The reason you're going down, always trying to go down the peg, is to try and keep this angle here. Especially Fender guitars have got the flat headstock, so there's not much of an angle between the bridge and the pegs, which can cause a few problems. Whereas the Gibson headstocks, especially Les Pauls, tend to be angled back the way, so they give you more of a break angle, which keeps everything nice and tight. Although there's disadvantages with that as well. Namely, when you knock the guitar over, you tend to break the headstock off it. But that's another story. So, onto the D string, the G strings. This one I'm going to take up to the between the B and the high E string and cut it there. The same thing again, find the hole in the centre, drop the string, end of the string in it, bend it down, hook it over, start winding. Keep the tension on it. There you go. And wind away. So what I was talking about, break angles there, is the angle of the string off. That's what these trees are for here, these string trees as well, there to keep the angle of the string down the way as well. Keep the tension on the bridge, on the nut, sorry. Right, so G string now, I'm going to take it up to the end of the headstock. Cut it there. Find the hole in the centre, notch it down, tuck it under the tree and start winding. Okay, last two. B string, right, so where am I going to take this one? Going to take this one to, again, about the end of the headstock, because there ain't much difference in it, and we have plenty of winds around that G string. Again, find the hole, notch it down, tuck it under the string tree, keep the tension on it, start winding. Again, making sure we're winding down the peg. E string. Okay, this one I'm going to take to about an inch past the headstock. So cut it somewhere up about here. Yeah, you can see that. Just like to do it from that side. There you go. Rather awkward, but trying to get it for the camera so you can see. So I'm cutting it around about an inch or so past the end of the headstock. Find the end of the hole, put it down, notch it round, put it under the string tree, keep some tension on it, start winding. we go. Tune it up, and there we go. That's another one sorted. And yeah, nice and neat here. No sharp bits, you know, sticking out. I much prefer these, but unfortunately you just don't see them much anymore. I don't know why. I think they're great. Anyway, that's another one done. One more to go. Okay, so the Les Paul's slightly different again, mainly because the strings are all fitted on the top, so it's at the bridge end, it's different. The tuner side is exactly the same as the acoustic guitar was, they're just the standard slot throughs. So, let's get the strings off this one. So on these, I'll turn this way around for you. So you can see in the close-up, I've got this tailpiece set up. So the strings run through the back of that. And what happens is exactly that. Bits start falling off when you take them off. Now, on this one, stuck in there. On this one, this bridge section here has got a grub screw in it somewhere around here. I can't find it at the minute, but there's a grub screw in there which stops that from falling off. They don't all have that, so beware that when you take it off, you take the strings off, everything's going to drop off it or could possibly drop off. Don't worry, it'll just slot straight back on. There we go. And there's no damage caused. What you want to make sure when you're doing these is that you don't alter the position of any of these bridge saddles. They're all adjustable here. So you want to make sure, if this does come off, make sure that it goes back on the right way around. Otherwise all the intonation on your guitar is going to be out of tune. You're not going to be able to keep it in tune. But again, with all the strings off, good opportunity to be able to get a duster in around all those areas that you can't normally reach. Okay. So if you're worried about things dropping off and you're not being able to put it back together again, I think you would be able. I don't think there'd be any reason why you shouldn't be able to put it back together again. But if you're worried about that, just change one string at a time. You'll be fine. General rule of thumb with strings, the only time I would ever, if I broke a string, the only time I would ever just replace the broken string and not replace the full set is if I was in the middle of a gig or in a hurry. Because the strings won't wear evenly and it won't sound right. So I would always replace the entire set rather than just a single string. But what I meant there about the bridges, just replace one string at a time as you go. So replace the E string, take the A string off, replace that. Yeah. Some guitars have a floating bridge, so this section, again, it'd be held on with a similar tailpiece or something that comes from the back of the guitar. and there'll be a bridge sitting in this sort of position here, and it's not actually bolted down, it's just the tension of the strings that hold it down. Now if your guitar's got one of those, some like early Gretches, things like that, like those hollow-bodied jazz style guitars, things like that, if it's got that arrangement, you probably want to just replace one string at a time. You know, just take one string off, put the new string on, take the next string off, put the new string on, etc. Because if that bridge comes out of position, your guitar is going to be out of tune and you might struggle to get it back into position. There are reasons for it being done that way. Most of us, it makes no odds to whatsoever. Right, so as we did with the acoustic, and up, put it through, finger on the first fret, yeah, tucked under, fingers tucked under the string behind, first finger stretched out to the first fret, pull it back a fret, and then I'm going to start winding there. Turn this around so you can see what I'm doing. So, let's put this back. So, pulled it straight, lined it up with all the slots, pulled it straight, first finger on the first fret, pull back about a fret's worth, and then start winding. That's what I'm going to do. Again, you have to make sure it goes down, not up. And that one's going on wrong. So I'm going to take it off again. Crossed over and it started winding itself up the peg rather than down the peg. So we'll get that sorted now. No, still not there. There we go. So that's going nowhere. I can snip that now. So in some respects, a bit less of a faff with not having to feed the string through the body. They're relying on the pressure of these posts here to transfer the sound, the vibration into the body in this design, whereas in the Fender design they pull the string all the way through the body to keep the pressure on it that way. And it's all about transferring the vibration of the string through the wood. So again, string lined up, pull tight, slip my fingers underneath the string, finger up to the first fret, pull back to the second fret, start winding. Sorry, I keep going out of camera, I think. Hopefully you can still see what I'm doing here. Keep going over the edge of the table so that I can get the winder under it. tension on it. Can be a little bit fiddly. Sometimes it feels like you need 3 hands, but you know, at the end of the day, it's not difficult. So you really shouldn't be paying somebody else to do this for you. Let's come out of the pitch at the back. Loosen it off a bit. There we go. So, yeah, G string again, oh sorry, D string again. Pull it straight through, fingers underneath, get some tension on it, bring it back, about a fret, start winding. So yeah, again, pulling it through. Wind the back. Now, one of the things with a Les Paul, apparently, they do have a reputation for the G strings going out of tune quite regularly. So while we're threading the strings through from this direction to keep this break angle here, what some people are doing, seems to be an old tip that's been around since the 70s, is to top wrap it. And what they do with that is they feed, instead of feeding the string through this way, you feed the string through that way and bring it back over, so it wraps over the top of this bar here, so it comes around that way and up. And what that does is basically decreases this angle here, which puts less tension on that string, and maybe that's allowing it to move and come back in to tune better. I don't know. As I say, it's not a problem that I've ever come across myself in the past, so I don't know, maybe it only happens on really expensive guitars. well. Where am I missing the string? So again, straighten it up, feed it through the hole, line it all up, put a bit of tension on it now. B and E strings, I'm not going to put as many winds round there, so I'm going to bring it back about half a fret this time. Just going to pin that with my thumb so I can use my right hand to wind it. So you can see what I'm doing. The right way, there we go. I'll probably have to stretch these a little bit more than I would normal, just because I'm not keeping that tension on the string as I'm winding it, so there may be a little bit of looseness up here because of that. Now then, where did that last string go? Over down here. So there you go, 4 guitars, 4 slightly different setups. My personal preference is the vintage style tuner that's on the Telecaster. I like those the best. But hey, horses for courses. Anyway, I hope that demystified it for you. And yeah, happy string changing. There's no reason why you need to pay somebody to do that for you. Cheers folks, thanks for watching. Bye bye.